Do you remember all the stuff you want to talk about?
What?
Steel trap.
Rusted
Wow.
shut.
I also watched it like the morning of. That's the only way I can do this properly.
Keep it fresh in your mind.
Something like that. All right.
Grab and mute.
How was everyone's Thanksgiving?
Surprisingly undramatic.
Well, that's good.
So, uh,
Fuck. There's gonna be a lot of snot in this one.
right.
Snot.
Corey, now we just need to get you sick, and we'll
Yeah,
all
right.
match.
Thanks. Well, my wife came home from working Black Friday with a sore throat, and she's been complaining about it the last couple of days. So I'm sure she's doing her best
To complain about it?
to get me sick.
Oh.
She works retail, and I have escaped that. So it's like she's just gonna bring all the germs back to the house for me. It's nice. I get delivery.
I successfully have had a 10-day weekend.
Yeah.
And I don't go back to work till Tuesday, but I really don't want to go.
Not exactly like a relaxing weekend.
No, not at all. Not at all. But I just have not had to worry about work for 10 days. That's been really nice.
Yeah, that sounds spectacular.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie, 4 days off was enough to make me think, do I need to do any of this shit anymore?
I really need to go back to work.
Just stay here. And the 2 years I spent unemployed where I didn't do much of anything, that was I helped at the comic shop.
Heaven. It was heaven.
It was not bad. It was kind of like they keep telling me that there are Americans who just do this, who just live off the system. Where do I get the system? Can I have that system and make it work for me? Because this is great.
That's a good idea. Try it. What we need to do is just get some sponsors for our podcast.
Well, we have sponsors.
Just live off that podcast money.
They don't pay us, but I mean,
No, yeah, they don't pay shit.
but we like them.
Sometimes.
Don't say sometimes. One of them is Nicole.
Nicole's a sponsor?
Don't we use Nicole's ad for?
Oh, yeah.
We do one for.
No, we have Geek Cinema Society.
Yeah. See. There you
Yeah.
go.
Well,
Haha.
Brett did that. He does all the work.
It's like I made Mac do here.
Yeah. It could be worse. Oh,
Oh, much better.
Because now I'm drunk.
are you?
No, I'm not.
Damn it. I hope someday we get Corey drunk off my lovely lady humps.
Hey, we'll see how the Trump presidency is gonna do, because that might be what leads me to drink again.
Yeah, yeah. You and all the rest of us.
See, I might upset someone by saying this, but it's like maybe it won't be that bad. I'm pretty sure it's fucked, but maybe it won't be that bad.
I think that's the thing that most people try to say the first time the doctor is going to reach up their asshole.
Maybe this won't be so bad.
I mean, they do it all the time. They must have perfect. No. And then,
all right, if you guys are ready, we can start.
Hold on.
yeah, you can all blow your noses or stuff if you wanted to.
Nope. I like going into the microphone as much as possible.
Gross.
I won't do that
Well,
on purpose.
all right. Oh, good. Well, I have lots of notes to get through, and I hope we will. God knows,
yeah.
you guys had like a what? You had like a 3.5 hour episode once. I started listening, then I'm like, When are you going to actually talk about the movie?
I was drunk.
Matt Vincent episodes aren't about the movie.
Mm-mm.
Hold on a sec.
Yeah,
They're normally our most downloaded episodes.
I know. Except that creepypasta one.
All we have to do is get Matt Vincent on, talk about creepypasta. Your dog?
Yeah, he's outside being an asshole. Another one's barking at something out there.
Okay, there we go. Every time I cough like that, it stuffs up my nose, so then I have to blow my nose. It's a 2-step process. Criminy. All right. Oh, right. I need to do one more thing I needed to get looked up here. I'll fire up IMDb. You know, you'd think with the Ethernet cable plugged in, this would work faster, but
Nope.
no.
Not always. Stupid
It does
computers.
not. Come on. Come on. Crap. Okay. Yep. No, let's try that again. What are you doing to me? What are you doing to me? There we go. Pull it up. There we are.
Then you watch the Cards Against Humanity hole get dug.
No, I didn't do any watching of that.
I watched a lot of it. I don't even know why, but I did. It was always on. It was a big ass hole.
Did they fill it in with anything later?
Nope. They just dug it. And then when the timer ran out, it just said a hole has been dug, and that was it. And the guys stopped their trucks, just cut out and left. Yeah, I guess they did what they said they were going to do.
Okay. All right. Right. Oh. Okie doke. All right, I'm set.
All right. Corey, are you set? No one ever asked you if you're set.
I gotta imagine that I am.
Okay. I just noticed your shirt too, by the way. I approve.
Yeah, I wore it for you.
Oh.
Otherwise, you would have been shirtless.
Which also would have been for me.
Wearing a shirt is for all of you.
Jury's out.
Is that a Boston shirt?
It's based off of Boston shirt, but it says Kodos. It's the
Oh, okay.
The Simpsons.
I approve of both references.
All right. If there are no questions, we're going to start this shit. Where'd my thing go? No, I'm not prepared. All right.
Why are you not prepared?
I'm never prepared. Nicole, do you do anything besides Geek Cinema Society? I can't remember.
No.
Okay. Just wanted to make sure I mentioned everything.
The amount of effort she puts in, I can't imagine how much free time she would have after that.
Well, I have kids, so
No.
I don't know of this free time of which you speak.
I'm rating you strictly off the podcast.
Wow. All right. Let's do this. Welcome to episode 67 of the Podcast of Terror production of the Galactic Network. This is a podcast about all things scary. I'm your host, Matt Stein. With me, as always, is Corey. I prefer to go shirtless, Scott. Corey, how are you?
I mean, it's not so much a preference. It's that I'm just so hairy that I figure it looks like I'm wearing a really nice jacket.
Did you get a haircut?
No.
Okay, good. It looked shorter, but not in a ponytail.
It's just pulled back. My wife man-bunned me the other day. That was not a good time.
I still respect you.
I'm not sure that's a good look for you. I saw that.
Oh, yeah.
It's a good look for anybody.
Could be worse. For more on this podcast, including show notes, content information, subscription links, go to gncast.com/pot. You can chat with us on our Slack channel during our shows at gncast.com/signup. And while you're there, you can subscribe to our newsletter. We're going to spoil things. This week, we're spoiling 2006's Korean film, The Host. I swear a lot. And you may or may not have heard a foreign voice in there. That's our guest. We usually have guests. This week, we're graced with the presence of one of the hosts of the Geek Cinema Society and our dear friend, Nicole Davis. Nicole, how are you?
I have been better. I'm fighting a really bad cold, as I'm sure you can hear.
Yeah, Corey is the only one of us that isn't sick. I'm a hell of a lot better than I was last week. Nicole has taken my spot as sickie on board.
Designated sick person.
I mean, I'm in my mid-40s, so I've got a general malady just like of life.
It's a general malaise sort of thing.
Wow, that is a new word. I might have to Google that one. Awesome. I kind of lost my train of thought. If Nicole, what is the Geek Cinema Society? You should probably explain it to someone who may or may not have ever listened to it.
Okay, well, the Geek Cinema Society was born from a conversation that the creator had with someone where he confessed to never having seen Blade Runner, and they asked him, what kind of geek are you that you've never seen this? And he was inspired to devise a list of movies that all geeks should have seen but might not have. And we go through that list one at a time each week. And the concept, the twist is that our guest has not seen the movie until the week of the podcast.
Now, when you say it was a conversation that the creator had, do you mean our Lord and Savior, Tyler? Or
no, Sean Burns. He's the head of one of the heads of Blazing Caribou Studios.
Yeah. See here, I thought you were going to say Brett. Brett's been on our show.
Yes.
Be our savior.
And as a matter of fact, we've been on that show each individually. Mm-hmm. So people, if you haven't heard of Geek Cinema Society, it crushes me because I was there. I did Return to Oz.
It
was a good time.
I did Fahrenheit 451. Probably a poor decision on my part.
Yeah, poor Matt.
I think
pretty, but not the most exciting movie ever.
Yeah, and I definitely think on like a ninth grade level.
Matt.
He's pretty, but he's dumb, which is the opposite of Fahrenheit 451. Maybe.
It's one of the things.
But smart.
One of the things, dear audience, that you will pick up from this episode, if you haven't heard Nicole on her own show or on the previous episode she was on here, where she brought us the movie Triangle, is that Nicole comes prepared. She thinks hard about the films that she's reviewing, and she is nothing like us. So it'll be. I can't expect that Matt would have walked into that episode with Fahrenheit 451 and had any kind of clue as to what he needed to bring to match wits with the hosts.
Corey, you're being
I don't know how much wit matching there was with that one. We were all kind of just, it was a movie, all right.
They burnt some books.
It's a lot. Yeah, it was a lot like the book. Yep, that's how it was.
Which I never read the book either.
Conversation kind of limped along from there. So,
yeah.
But we tried. We tried to make it interesting as best we could.
Yeah. It was I had fun nonetheless.
Okay.
But yeah. So thanks for coming, Nicole.
No, I'm very happy to be back. Hopefully we won't have the same sort of technical issues that we had last run.
No, we won't, because I have spent a bunch of money and fixed that.
Ah, okay.
Yeah. And then thanks to your co-host and our friend Brett, We're pretty much in the 21st century here now.
All right.
We don't have solid gold microphones like Wii Studios, but I at least have a working mixer.
Working mixers are good.
Yeah. Never go to Guitar Center and try and buy a mixer and explain to the guy how to do a podcast, because he'll just stare at you like an idiot. Which is no different than any other time you go to Guitar Center and ask them for help. They just stare at you like an idiot. Unless you're buying drums, then they're nowhere to be found. A little salty.
It's like
I just tell people it's like a radio show, but for the computer.
That's a really good way to explain it. Let's get into news, I guess. We have a bunch of news, as we do every week. Corey always gets sad before we start recording because I always blame shitty news stories on him. I read them this week, and I'm still blaming the shitty news story on him because I don't give a shit about Anne Rice or the Vampire Chronicles. But Anne Rice wants to turn the Vampire Chronicles, the books, into a TV show. Yep, she does.
Yep.
Yeah, I have plenty of things that I'd like to turn into TV shows too. The difference between me and Anne Rice is Anne Rice can probably make this happen. I'm surprised at the amount of TV shows that are still hanging around that were based on lesser known vampire stuff. And Anne Rice, unfortunately, went out of the gate with a big sort of blockbuster based off of one of her novels, but it never followed up for the rest of the series. So she got kind of hosed by the time they got around to Queen of the Damned. They never did a vampire stuff film. Yeah, it was not good. I mean, one of those things where, of course, you lose the lead actor from it to tragic death during the filming and stuff. That's never a good time. But it didn't cause the huge inflation of numbers like The Dark Knight. Didn't quite even hit the Crow status either. Either way, it was a shit pile and deserved to not be recognized. But she's got the rights back, so she's hoping to turn it into a TV series as opposed to another series of films where they're going to do things like take a small child who's a vampire and turn him into Antonio Banderas and shit like that. So I guess good for her. I just don't know if we're still Anne Rice like interested.
I mean, she still has her faithful followers. I think that they're not as numerous as they were back in the 80s, say, when Interview with the Vampire was at its height of popularity as a book.
Are we maybe burnt out on vampires right now? Because I feel like Twilight was like the pinnacle of vampire-dom. And then you had True Blood and all that other shit.
I don't know if it's called the pinnacle.
Vampire Diaries.
The pinnacle in
about to finish.
Huh?
The Vampire Diaries on CW is in its last season, I believe, and it has its spin-off series, which I think is going to go soon.
Let me rephrase that. The pinnacle in terms of people who don't give a shit about vampires as it is shoved down my throat. Because, like, I don't give a shit.
Which is why I think the vampire stuff has a lot of fandom, actually, is for all the shoving down of the throat. Matt, you have to remind me, because you're much younger than me. What year were you born?
1985.
1985. So one of the things about the Interview with the Vampire movie was that it was the breakout role for Kirsten Dunst. Kirsten Dunst, born in 1982. So this hurts me even worse now that I have an association with you, because it's like weird. It's like Kirsten Dunst always still like a little kid in my mind, even though I've watched her on things like the last season of Fargo, which was amazing. She was just terrific in that, as was everybody. And then there's you, and there's you just kind of like really wrecking it for me.
Fuck does that mean?
I don't know. It's just I feel old. I feel really old. And in the early 90s, late 80s, early 90s, when these books started getting really popular, when the first film came out, it seemed like this was like a sure thing. And it's always kind of tough when you've seen that Hollywood has pushed past a genre without really doing justice to the original one. It's like when they did John Carter of Mars as a movie from Disney. It wasn't that John Carter was a bad movie at all. It was really pretty good. But the problem was that everything in it we had seen in other things that had come after John Carter of Mars. It's just that they got made into films first. And so by the time we get back to what was the originator of a lot of these tropes, we're just seeing it as a trope as opposed to being original and fresh.
And they mismarketed it.
Oh, yeah, they did.
Number one with the title, just calling it John Carter makes it sound really goddamn boring. You say John Carter of Mars, you're like, hey, okay, it takes place on Mars.
See Keanu Reeves shooting people in the face, John Carter, just that's what it sounds like. Except in 70s, like presidential era. Yeah,
it was also a Disney movie. I feel like
yeah.
Because I remember seeing the name, I had to look it up, but I think that's what turned me off is the fact that it's just John Carter in a Disney movie. That doesn't mean anything to me. I don't know anything about it.
It wasn't, it wasn't a grand slam, certainly, but it wasn't bad. It just tanked completely.
Yeah, they had recent success with doing a Burroughs story with Tarzan. That was an animated film.
Should have renamed it Brozan.
Yeah. So, anyways, just saying I have the rights back and now I want to make a TV series doesn't necessarily make a TV series happen. And I would assume that it's not something that we're going to see on regular TV. It's something she's going to push to be on an HBO or something like that. But HBO's already done this.
Right. They did True Blood for 7 years.
Right. And the other stations that want to rip off that idea probably have already moved past it too. So it's really a question is what good does it bring us? I'd rather see her do the claiming of beauty books because those are just really icky. And it seems much more in time with the 50 Shades stuff. Like show how fucked icky up
depending on what you're into. Yeah. Some people are into that sort of thing.
But some people are into a lot of icky stuff.
If you weren't aware, Matt, they're like very big. They're like S&M books, basically.
but not just
I love
S&M,
pornography.
Like so there are people that are like hanging on the walls on phallic things, like they're just up there suspended and stuff. You liked it because it's kind of like Strangeland was trying to be.
Hey guys, I'm gonna go watch 50 Shades of Grey. I'll talk to you later.
No, not 50 Shades. That's bullshit.
Yeah.
Oh! I thought you were talking about 50 Shades of Grey. So what are you talking about?
We're talking about
science.
The claiming of beauty books from Anne Rice.
Oh, did they make movies?
Not that I'm aware of. Oh. Make some really cool hentai shit, but
Anne
Rice they made like some Skinamax adaptations of them or something.
The closest we ever got was they did an adaptation of Exit to Eden. Which
that was awful.
Yeah, which was Dana Delaney and some Bonergy, like mostly like spanking in that, but then comic
light
relief.
Spanking, is that what you said?
Yeah, but comic relief of Dan Aykroyd and Rosie O'Donnell, walking around in
corset
wear. Yeah,
bondage gear. Yeah.
And there she did this.
I don't know. I didn't think she looked too bad, but it's just not her.
No, but she did a comedy bit about it later on where she talks about the fact that she lost a lot of weight to play the part. And then months later, they had her come back to do reshoots and she had put the weight back on. And so there are scenes where she walks in the door at like 140 pounds and then balloons out to her normal weight and then goes back through the door to the lighter weight again. And yeah, I thought that she looked really good in it for the most part as well. And that's not really what it's about, but it's like, here's this story about bondage, and then we're going to have our comic relief Dan Aykroyd, Rosie O'Donnell stuff in the middle of it.
Yes. There is no comic relief in the novel, just so you know.
Right.
I looked up the picture. You're right. She doesn't look half bad.
No.
6 out of 10 would fap to it. In case anyone was curious.
6 out of 10 is just like how hard you can get.
No, say
inflation level.
Yeah, it's definitely like a top. It's not a top 5 boner. lower echelon. It's still 3/4 soft. I'm just wringing it out at this point. So Anne Rice is making. She wants to make a TV show. Let's go on to the next story. There's a lot of dick talk. And I know we talked about this prior to recording, so this will be a quick one. Neither of you have seen this movie, so this means nothing to you, but I'm excited. Kind of.
No, don't be.
The movie Strangers, the sequel is kind of still in limbo. I'm kind of excited because there's actually still going to be a sequel, but I'm sad because it's still in limbo. I really like the first one. It was just a home invasion movie about people in creepy masks. I'm certain you've seen pictures. That's really, really all it was. Started talking about it years ago. Still just talk.
I mean,
Probably
but
gonna
that's
stay
the
that
thing
way
is
for a
that
while.
it's the same sort of the Strangers came out, and then they started doing a lot more movies that looked and felt like the
Very
Strangers.
similar.
So by the time they get back to, oh, we should do our sequel now, it's like, well, we've kind of determined that people are tired of this trope at this point. You know, they've had all the invasion
Vampires.
ones, like the what?
Like vampires.
Well, yes, exactly. It's something comes out and it gets popular, and then like everybody goes hardcore at it for a while. So like
Mhm.
right now we're still in a zombie renaissance, but I think that's starting to burn out too. Like the numbers for The Walking Dead seem to be tanking this season after the premiere. They've just gone down every week since. And a lot of the other zombie stuff that's been happening is just, I think it's starting to peter out, and they're going to try to discover what the next thing's going to be. And I have a feeling this is the same problem, is that we've hit full peak of strangers with masks invading your home. We did that review of that movie. What was it? Hush.
Yep.
That was really good and quite a different theme from what this is, but it's still kind of
It's still the same
look
thing.
at the cover, it looks the same.
Mhm.
And all the ones where the people are running around committing anarchy on the one night they do the purge. Those purge movies seem like it. There's been a couple of them that I just can think of off the top of my head where it like keeps coming out. I'm like, oh, this must be the sequel to Strangers. Oh, not yet. All right.
Sorry, there's a comment about my beat level. Have to check. FAP level is based on hardness, or we'll do X times out of 10. I don't know.
Thinking about math is what I do to try to stay hard once I've already achieved full chub.
Yes.
So
yes. That or what I plan on making for dinner the next day.
Total lie. I don't remember the last time I achieved full chub. So yeah, that Strangers 2, it may happen, it may not happen. It's a question of whether it needs to happen at this point, or if they just put that effort into trying for the next thing.
That's true.
But then they bring back things like the Blair Witch and Saw and stuff, and it's like, well, we said we were done with this, but now we think maybe you people are suckers again. Look how you vote.
I feel like they partially do that to try and hit the new audience. You know, like that's why they remade Nightmare on Elm Street. That's why they remade Friday the 13th. And I don't know. These are all things that don't need to happen, but they keep happening.
That's absolutely true. My wife is part of a group that is all about 70s, 80s, and 90s nostalgia.
Wow.
And there's a bunch of 14-year-olds in it. I'm like, these are people who are nostalgic for decades that they didn't even exist in. How do you, what?
Yeah, that doesn't make any sense to me. You should have her ask them why they're there.
Well, I mean, when I was a kid, I was into the Beatles and I was into the Monkees, and those, believe it or not, were before my time. So
by how many years, though? How far removed were you?
I was born in 71.
Okay, and then the Beatles stopped being a thing when? I could Google all of this, but I'm lazy.
I'm pretty sure it was before I was born that they had split up. But certainly the music continues on. And with these days, the movies and stuff are very easy to find. It's like if I decide to get on an 80s kick and I want to watch a bunch of John Hughes movies, I can very easily do that. It's not like when I was a kid and it was just whatever was on TV at the time. Now it's easy to chase that stuff down and have nostalgia and say, oh, I want to watch these movies, or I want to listen to this kind of music. Or, you know, in some cases, I want to get nostalgic and buy the candy or buy the stuff off of Amazon and get Ecto Cooler and shit like that. I think nostalgia is easier to immerse yourself in now than it was when I was growing up. Maybe not when you were growing up, because that was 2 weeks ago. But
fuck you. I was a young one before the internet was wildly popular. Keep that in mind.
Wildly popular, but existed.
I'm trying to think. I got the internet for Christmas. Yes, I said that, for Christmas. Probably 92, 91, 92.
Yeah, I had to get
even then, I still went to the store to purchase music, and I still had to go out and do things.
Oh yeah, but I mean,
illegally downloading wasn't a thing until I was a teenager.
I had to go and get my own 300 baud modem that my mom didn't know about, and only run it at times when I knew that she was either not at home or asleep, so I could get onto BBSs on my Commodore 64. So difference.
Fucking nerd.
Yeah, I know.
Fucking nerd. My parents got us a second phone line so that didn't tie up a phone when we would use it. And if I was pissed off at my brother, I would just pick up the phone and hang it up and shit to knock him off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Internet,
Mean.
big dick since the beginning.
I also remember he had broadband coming into our house because my mom used to work out of our house for my dad. And he did not know. Like, he thought that if I tapped into that from my personal computer, that I would be stealing from Charter. And then I called Charter and I'm like, yeah, I want internet. And they're like, well, you already have it. I'm like, I know, but and they're like, just get a fucking Wi-Fi modem or a Wi-Fi router and I'm like, okay, you told me. And then he finally believed me. My dad's a stubborn old man.
The original routing, all the capabilities of that and stuff was a really interesting time, because it was one thing, we were just discovering what it was like to have high-speed internet and have something that was an always-on connection, wasn't disrupted by your phone, and then to say, oh, by the way, you don't have to just suck it up and have it at the one computer. When you could get it wireless and you could take stuff in the living room, and then it was just like, oh, now we realize that we can ignore television for this internet shit. Why the fuck do we need you, cable company?
Yeah, but the problem, and we should probably save this for our Wi-Fi connectivity podcast, but like, people don't understand what wireless means. Now, like, they're so used to wireless and Wi-Fi that they don't understand it.
Podcast of Error coming to you in 2017.
So, yeah, Strangers, sequel, not happening. Moving on. Yeah, keep this shit show moving. There's... Now, Corey, you're hip. Nicole, are you a hipster? Are you hip? Do you collect vinyl?
No.
Oh, okay. Well, you're not hip enough.
Nope.
I guess I'm the only vinyl collector here. Yeah,
I hang out in Cambridge sometimes, but I don't live there, so no.
Fair enough. I don't know what that means, but
I have some vinyl, but it's from back when you could just buy vinyl because it was what you bought music on.
Right.
Wow. I have a Steppenwolf vinyl that I got from my dad.
Yeah, it's like I could go get my old Journey Frontiers album that I got for my 8th birthday.
Nice.
That's on vinyl. Xanadu soundtrack. We had the Styx Paradise.
I shit you not.
album.
I own Xanadu on every single way that it's been put out twice. So I've had it on cassette. I've had it on vinyl. I've had it on an 8-track, and I wore out the 8-track and bought it again. I've had it on CD. I've had it on VHS. I taped it off the TV on Betamax, and then, of course, on DVD, and I'm just waiting for the Blu-ray to show up, man. I am Xanadu like you would not believe. And some of the vinyl that I've got sitting behind me is Olivia Newton-John's country stuff. There you go. That's what I'm saying. That's
what the fuck is Xanadu?
It's a horror movie where people with masks invade a discotheque.
Okay.
That's actually kind of apt when I think about it.
It's about this dude with a job that doesn't exist anymore, and he actually meets this figure from Greek mythology. He happens to appear to him on roller skates and speak with an Australian accent for no reason whatsoever. And she inspires him to open a roller disco.
So we should do for, let's see. Since anyone who listens to this won't remember, we should do an April Fool's episode and just do Xanadu.
I've been thinking about that since we started the show. I've been wanting to do Xanadu as April Fool's, but it's like you would not be into it.
No,
you would
we're
have
gonna
a
watch
real
it.
tough time.
We're gonna watch it.
I guess if we're gonna do Twilight, that this is probably
Oh God!
only slightly
Why
worse.
would you
than
do that to yourselves?
It's gonna be like as a joke.
Okay.
But it's going to be an 8-hour watch of.
Oh, you're going to watch all of them?
All of them.
I think so.
Oh my God! Oh, you wait until the wolves start talking. You're going to lose your shit completely. I lost it in the theater, and I got the nastiest looks from those teenage girls.
Out of control.
Well, you could just throw up a gang sign and say Team Edward. And
Wow.
So speaking of the vinyl.
Vinyl. I forgot where we left off. Okay, so Waxwork Records is going to be doing a subscription plan in 2017. They're going to be releasing Darkman, Evil Dead 2, Don't Look Now, Creepshow 2, and The Babadook on vinyl.
Ooh.
It appears that if you live in the States, the subscription will be $205, $250 for Canada, and $300 for international. Hey, I'm not much for soundtracks, so this is dumb to me. I have friends who really like soundtracks on vinyl, but I when I first started buying vinyl, I bought a metric fuck ton and just like really spent far more money than I should, and I was just kind of like, cool. Now they just sit there. So I actually started selling some and making more money than I paid for them, which is really cool. But
yeah,
I don't know. That's what this doesn't make sense to me. But I know multiple people with like over 500 vinyl. It's like I'm fine having like 100 of them. But
also important to note that these are special edition. You'll receive 5 deluxe soundtrack releases on exclusive 180-gram colored vinyl. It also comes with exclusive merchandise posters, enamel pins, apparel, and incentives unavailable to the general public.
Awesome. Yeah, which is it's cool. Like if I buy vinyl, I prefer to get like colored ones because black is dumb in this day and age. There's no reason to have a black vinyl in this day and age. If Metallica finally started pressing on color, everyone and their mother should press on color. There's actually the original Friday the 13th soundtrack is with blood-filled vinyl, which if I find that, I would keep that. But it sells for like over $400.
Rock band Kiss? Because no, they just threw that in the comic book.
No, that was the comic book. Yeah,
which my dad has.
Really?
He's got the Kiss Blood comic book.
He does. He has.
Cool.
He has a Kiss pinball machine, and he has the Kiss heads. He's got the comic book. The first concert I ever went to was Kiss, and he got a bootleg VHS tape of it too.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, I have a tube of Smash Mouth semen.
Sorry, what?
Guy Fieri's mayonnaise?
Yeah, exactly.
What?
No, nothing. So I mean, I don't know what it is that landed them on these particular movies for the soundtracks. It's been a while since I've seen Darkman, especially. I don't know that I've ever seen Don't Look Now, which I guess Donald Sutherland is in. I haven't seen the Babadook. You keep talking about doing that one.
Babadook is really good.
That was awesome.
How's the music? That's the question. Is how's the soundtrack?
Eerie. You could put it on and put like speakers outside for Halloween night for like people to come to your door and kick in. It's like
or any given Sunday to keep people from coming to my door. Dropping chick tracks off at my place. So it's I think that's the important thing is that are these soundtracks that are interesting enough to invest that kind of money in.
Well, you think about it. Shipping is included. Get on my trusty calculator here. Oh, it's like $40 a vinyl for just the vinyl alone.
If you're only talking the vinyl and not including the other merchandise that's supposed to come with it.
Yeah, so you figure if each soundtrack is a 2x, $30 shipping, so $41 for just the vinyl alone. That's actually not bad. Especially for something that's likely only available through this subscription.
Oh, and they'll also give you 10% off anything from Waxwork Records during 2017. So that could be a good add up.
I think Waxwork is actually the one that did the Friday the 13th final.
That would make sense.
Mm-hmm.
No Smash Mouth.
No Smash Mouth. I thought I had to burp. Didn't have to burp. Let's move on. Last news story we have. Unless you've been living under a rock, you're familiar with the fact that 2016 has essentially murdered everyone.
It's taken out a lot of the good ones.
Yeah.
I keep thinking the Keith Richards better watch his fucking back because 2016 is going to kill him just to prove that it can.
If he lives through 2016, he may never die. Just saying.
Yeah.
It's my theory that all the particular drugs that he took, he hit exactly the right combination to make it like a permanent preservative. So nothing will kill him.
Also, he's got that Mick Jagger VD screen in front of him that's just sitting there and things are bouncing off of.
Wow. I just assume it's like the episode of The Simpsons where Mr. Burns has what they call Three Stooges, where all of the disease are trying to get in at once and they're just all stuck in the door.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks, guys. Thanks for laughing at that one. So the news story that we have that we're eventually going to get to is Florence Henderson recently passed away. She actually did a last movie, and her last movie is a horror comedy called Grandmother's Murder Club. I think this sounds hilarious.
Yeah, and it was a Kickstarter campaign in 2015 to get it made. So we know that we've discussed different Kickstarter things before, and this has got, yeah, I mean, and it's one of those things that it's nice to see these kind of passion projects that get funded. Also has Pam Grier in it, so it, yeah, I mean, it looks like it's really funny. So it's about 4 grandmothers who accidentally kill a con man, and when the con man's partner shows up, things start to go south quickly. I imagine that this would be great. I mean, Florence Henderson has always been very ballsy in some of the things she does. We give a lot of credit to Betty White for being, you know, just like loud and, you know, just doesn't give a fuck and everything. But Florence Henderson has been doing that for years as well. She was in Shakes the Clown with Bobcat Goldthwait. She was the woman that Shakes has sex with at the beginning of the film. Yeah, she's awesome. She's always been awesome. She made jokes about doing sexual favors with Wesson Oil. Like she's Matt Vincent said this, I think in the first time he was on our podcast, where he said, you know, he's in on the joke. I don't remember who he was talking about exactly, but he understands that it's better to know that sometimes things that can be found funny about you are the things that you should embrace, and you just run with it. And Florence has always seemed really cool, and I think this part seems like it was something that was a really smart move for her to go and do, because why wouldn't you? It just sounds like a fun film. So it's nice that, you know, even though she passed away this week, that we'll still have this one thing to look forward to seeing her in.
Oh, I'm definitely going to keep my eye out for it. It looks funny.
I assume that her passing will give this movie added press.
Yeah, hopefully it doesn't.
Which is both a good and a bad thing.
It's not going to turn into...
It literally says in the news story. What was that?
I said hopefully it's not going to turn into Queen of the Damned.
That's true. That's true. It actually says in the news story, obviously Henderson's passing will surely bring additional attention to the film. Yeah. So
probably.
Maybe it's a publicity
Which
stunt.
is not to say it's worth it.
No, not at all.
2016.
No.
Fucker.
Yeah, right. Just... All right, we've had enough. Although we're nearing the end. I got about four weeks, just a little over 4 weeks here. Everybody, cross your fingers, tighten your butts.
Yeah.
So yeah, Grandmother's Murder Club doesn't say anything about a release, so we'll keep an eye out. Probably end up reviewing it because it sounds fucking hilarious. Let's move into our review, which is going to be the movie The Host, which I completely forgot to put the cast in here for.
I can do that for you if you want.
Yeah, sure.
Because I can actually pronounce the Korean if you want.
Oh, okay, cool. Because yeah, I'm. So
we can't even pronounce the people who send us fan mail.
That's true. One time. If you send us fan mail and you have a fucked up last name, please just tell me how to say it.
Even if it's not fucked up, but we're just too stupid to get a clue or try ahead of time.
Well, we had Christina Mueller on last week. I called her Miller because I'm an idiot and whatever. Grasping at straws here. So this movie, The Host, Korean. Yeah, it was strange. It was long and strange. I'll get to that. I'll say that now. But it starts out with a doctor and his Korean apprentice, I kind of assume.
Subordinate.
Okay, so it wasn't just learning; it was a subordinate. Then he basically says, "Dump all this formaldehyde down the drain," and the guy's like, "No, we can't do that." And the doctor's just like, "No, just do it. I told you to do it. Do it." And then all shit breaks loose from there.
Which is based on something that actually happened.
Yes. It was based on a real event. A civilian mortician working at a U.S. Army base in Seoul ordered a subordinate to dump 20 gallons of formaldehyde down the drain. And eventually that would feed into the Han River. And the Han River runs right through the middle of Seoul and is the primary source of drinking water for about 12 million people. So there was a bit of an outcry about it.
Did it create a mutant fish whose face looked like a vagina?
Not to my knowledge.
But there was some mutations of fish, I think, that were reported. I think that was maybe part of it. Did Matt just drop off?
No, I'm here. I just had to turn my camera off real quick. Yeah, so essentially they kind of and the guy kills himself right away. Not the guy. A guy kills himself right away. And you kind of he basically says like something fucked up is in this water. And then there's dark things in the water. And then old vagina face fish pops out and starts killing everybody.
A few years later, yes.
To me, it was instant.
So
anytime Matt sees a vagina, it's an instant. Yeah, and first of all,
45 seconds.
We should mention that the guy who played the doctor in the morgue was Scott Wilson, who is from The Walking Dead, who is like the super nice guy that you felt bad in losing his leg and everything else, and then finally getting offed by the governor. But he was Herschel on The Walking Dead. So as he's pouring the stuff down the drain, I'm like, but that could be what makes it happen, Herschel. What the fuck are you doing, man? And his whole motivation for it was like, I don't like dust, and there's dust in these formaldehyde bottles, so pour them down the drain. Well, that goes right to the fresh water. Yeah, I said pour them down the drain, fucker. Do what I say. I'm white. That's why I'm telling you. And like it was.
Yeah, supposedly that detail is true.
Fresh water.
That was one of the reasons, is because the boxes that the formaldehyde was in was dusty, so the mortician thought it was bad and that it needed to be poured out down the drain.
Has no fucking idea how a bottle works.
Well, and you even see the guy like wipe the dust off the bottle.
Yeah,
which was weird to me, but
he's like, but look, it just comes right off. I don't care. I'm not going to live here.
That's true.
You people have to deal with it.
So was this movie meant to be kind of funny?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, this is really common in East and South Asian cinema in particular. They're way more comfortable with a mix of tones in their movies. You can have drama and action and screwball comedy all in one movie, and nobody blinks an eye.
I mean, some of the comedy comes in the points where you don't think it would be funny. Like they're sitting there and they're at the vigil for all the people who were killed by the monster at the beginning at the beach. And that's where they're inserting like the whole family is just like overacting and just being really terribly farcical. And it's in like one of the worst places of the movie that you would think that would happen from what we think of American cinema versus this.
So yeah, that's just it's what you're used to. So culturally, that's much more common there. So some Westerners find it weird.
I didn't think it was weird. I mean, obviously I've seen almost everything there is to see doing this silly podcast, but I just wasn't sure if it was meant to be funny or if I'm just a terrible human being.
No, it's intentional. Bong Joon-ho has quite a sense of humor, so that's the director.
Both of those things.
Yeah.
I am a terrible human being.
No, I think it does, like the tone goes from being what you think is going to be a serious thing to kind of a silly thing all of a sudden when you're talking about the family and stuff, and then it gets serious again, then it gets silly again. So it took me a minute to understand what the tone of film was supposed to be from there on out. But it feels okay when you're watching it. Like when you understand, okay, this is the kind of movie that I'm watching, then it doesn't feel unnatural so much as like, this is just how this movie is. But I could see that being the case of like, you were not expecting this at all and just being, well, this is stupid. Why are they making jokes about these things in the middle of this otherwise a monster movie? But we have silly monster movies here. We have the Gremlins films and stuff to talk about. So it's not too far away from that. It's just, it helps to know going in.
Yeah. So the remainder of the movie is kind of centered around this one family. There's and Nicole, you will have to literally say all of these names for me. There's the young man whose name is.
Which young man? The uncle or the father?
The father. The father, yeah.
The father is Gangdu.
Yes. who runs the snack. And this is probably my favorite part is the guys, I think it's a little girl, right? She's trying to buy something from the snack bar and he's just asleep.
Oh no, it's the little boy. That's actually the two boys that you see later on in the movie.
Oh my God.
So it's the little one who's trying to steal the candy bar, and his older brother keeps him from doing it.
See, maybe I should start taking notes.
Was it Seju?
Yeah, Seiju is the little one, and I think it's Seijin is his older brother.
Yep.
Wow. I'm lost.
It's called foreshadowing, and
Yes.
it exists in film. But you've seen so many of these things that you're an old hat and you understand it, and you're jaded now.
Mm-hmm.
So Gangdu works at this little shop with his father, and his
They
daughter.
never call by his name. The character's
Right.
name is Hibong.
Right.
But they, they all just
okay.
call him Dad. So.
Which is weird because that's the actor's name too,
Yes.
I think.
Yes, it is.
But he works at the shop, but he's not very effective at anything. He's kind of looked at as a letdown, a joke. His daughter comes back from school and she's giving him crap about her cell phone and how embarrassing it is. And he's been saving up coins that he's basically been stealing from the shop over time to get her a newer cell phone. But they go inside the shop while the father is working, the grandfather is working outside to watch her aunt in an archery competition.
Yes.
Mhm.
So the aunt is Namju, the archer.
Who I
and
recognize.
She's played by Bae Duna.
Yeah, Bae Duna from Series 8 or Sense8.
Sensei, Jupiter Ascending, Cloud Atlas. She's been in. So she's been in more and more movies in the West lately.
Yeah, I mean, Sense8 she is amazing in, but I loved that series overall anyways. So
Yeah. No, she's fantastic.
I was excited to see her in this.
So yeah, so that's the aunt. The girl is Hyunso.
Who gets
Hyunso.
who gets abducted by vagina fish,
Right.
and then she doesn't die. So then that's kind of where it picks up a little bit. But
Right. She manages to make one call from the
Mhm.
sewer to let them know that she's still alive. And so the family decides to go get her.
Because the government and the police don't care, and they think that they've imagined the whole thing. So they're trying to keep them locked up because they know that Gangdu is probably infected by this virus from the fish. So they're trying to keep him and the family in quarantine, but the family wants to break out because no one will go check to see if they can find the daughter,
Right.
who is trapped somewhere in the sewers.
yes, and they also later mention that the virus is in his head. So
Well,
they
they
kind of go ahead.
What they actually say is that he overhears them as they're trying to lobotomize him. The American doctor says that there is no virus, essentially, is that one of the people at the beach who tries to help out is this military guy who they just referred to as Donald.
Mhm.
He and Gangdu try to fight off the fish. He loses his arm. They take him and they do all these tests and stuff on him. They don't actually find a virus, but they keep perpetuating that there is a virus because they want to keep people away from the beach. They want to keep them away from the area where the creature is. And so they're saying that there's this virus. And some of them actually believe that there's a virus, but then there's the few in the know that are just like, but we haven't really found anything. So maybe there's a virus in this guy that we can get out of his brain because we're just going to keep reaching until we find one, is what essentially as it is. So this whole thing of the virus really is a red herring for everybody else to keep them going along when all these people could have been released and then they could have gone and rescued their daughter without the interference of the police and everything else.
Right. Yeah, I mean, the title "The Host" comes from them saying that they believe the creature to be the host of a virus. The Korean title of the movie is Gwomur, which just means monster. So,
Interesting. Where the hell are we in the movie itself? So,
All right. So the family busts out from where they're being held in quarantine,
mhm.
and they make their way to the sewers, but they don't have any clue as to where she is. And there's tons of sewers, and a lot of these were filmed on location near the Han River,
Yes.
the actual place. So they're going through all these places, and they don't know where to find her. In that moment, they basically the creature shows up. They go to try to kill the creature, and it winds up killing the grandfather. And part of the reason why it kills the grandfather is Gangdu gives him his gun, says he has one bullet left, and then realizes after the fact that he had no bullets left when the grandfather tries to shoot the creature and doesn't have a bullet to do it. And then the grandfather does the grand gesture of Kevin Costner in Man of Steel and is like, no, stay away, and just sacrifices himself. But a lot of this movie, it seems to do with the failings of the father and the aunt and uncle. The uncle,
Namir.
who we haven't really mentioned yet, he went to university and dropped out. He used to be big on political stuff and kind of just lost it and became a drunk. So a lot of his failings that they deal with and try to get him to overcome as the film goes on relates to that. Namju's failings relate to her. She's an archer, but she only got the bronze because she let it time out because she didn't take the shot in time because she hesitates too much. And they follow through with that a little bit later on in the movie too. So it's trying to get these three characters to overcome the things that are seen as their shortcomings, which only really happens if you're paying attention to that part of it.
Yeah.
Is that foreshadowing you were talking about, huh?
Yes. There's a lot of
Yeah.
foreshadowing and callbacks and linking things together. So.
I'm trying to. Okay, so I think that pretty much brings us to the end of the movie, right?
Well, they get split up for a while. The father gets recaptured. That's when they try to lobotomize him, and he has to fight his way out of it.
Mhm.
And Hansu, she finds one of the kids from the beginning, Seju, and God, why are we even saying the names?
You started it.
Just takes practice.
She finds him in the pit where the monster is dropping the bodies. Now, it captures them in his mouth, but it doesn't necessarily kill them. Some of them, like she survives it, and one of the two boys survives it. So they are in this deeper portion of the pit that the monster can't get into. So she's trying to keep him safe and get them out of there. And as she makes her attempt at an escape, the monster, it turns out, is sort of playing possum and grabs her as it's acting like it's sleeping. It grabs her and pulls her back down, and then it winds up capturing her and the boy. At the same time, the aunt has gone down there to try to fight the monster. She got a text from the uncle, and as she goes to try to shoot the monster with an arrow, she hesitates again, and the monster runs her off, and she gets knocked down another pit somewhere. And it tries to grab her, but it can't. But she's down there for a while.
Right.
And the uncle himself, had gone through trying to track the cell phone, and had a bunch of people, like his friend, tried to turn him in for a reward, and he made his way out of there, but had gotten hurt and was lying somewhere before he woke up. And
you jumped off an overpass, so
yeah, exactly.
That's gonna hurt.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I've done it. Younger days, but so yeah, it all converges into the end of they've all now determined that they can figure out where she is, and they're all going there to find her.
Right, they all converge, and it happens to be the site where the government is about to release their Agent Yellow, which is supposed to be a fumigation agent to get rid of the virus that doesn't really exist. And there's a whole bunch of protesters there.
Right, and the protesters are standing there, and they're like, don't do this, and we all deserve to be here and stuff, and they're just going to drop it on them. So this is, again, very political, based off of real stuff that's happened. That is kind of almost a side thing to this. If it was just the story of the family trying to rescue the daughter, that would be one thing. But there's these other things that are going on outside of it, that kind of alter the story and bring more depth to it, and that's one of the parts.
So, and then
they drop Agent Yellow and everyone dies. A horrible, horrible, painful-looking death.
A lot of people do get really sick, but not everybody.
yes.
Um,
And
They
the
start-
family all arrives in time, and they all do their part to kill the monster.
yes.
But,
But what?
well, they arrive in time, but what happens is that the daughter who is there that they were trying to rescue sacrificed herself protecting the little boy. So the father sees the creature, sees his daughter in the maw, realizes that she could still be alive, is chasing it, and the whole the aunt and uncle are with him, and they all try to chase it and take the thing down. But when it releases when he grabs the two bodies out of the mouth, essentially, she's perished. She's no longer alive. So they, because of all the things that got in their way, they weren't able to actually rescue her.
Mhm.
But because of her, the little boy actually lives.
Yep.
And then everyone cries out their mouth red. Yeah, I know,
I mean-
Nicole, you have a ton of notes on this. So
I do.
I want to make sure you get to them. But
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff I did not say just for the sake of getting through the synopsis there.
right. So let's start with your list of notes. Start at the top.
Okay. All right. This is one where I really want you to bear with me because this is the political background that
Oh, yeah, I
adds
forgot
some
you-
depth to the movie. It's not that long. Okay, so this is where the protests come in and where the anti-American sentiment that you can see in the movie comes in. So after the Korean War, South Korea was ruled by an authoritarian president for 20 years. He was assassinated in October of 1979. There was jockeying for power for a couple months afterward, and a military general seized power in December of that year. Pro-democracy sentiment had been building for a while, with the university students and staff being the most active part of the movement, leading demonstrations. And during a very heavy period of unrest, civilian militias actually briefly took over the city of Gwangju from government troops. It was retaken by the military with American approval, because America does have some say in what the South Korean military does. That was part of the agreement that divided North and South Korea. So the pro-democracy movement had to go underground for a while. It had a resurgence in 1986 with massive rallies and demands that the U.S. drop its support of the ruling military regime. Popular sentiment grew when the government started using repressive tactics, and that culminated in a 1 million-person peace parade. A few days later, the government agreed to adopt a direct presidential election system. And then in 1997, and one of the opposition candidates was elected for the first time. So there are still about 28,500 U.S. troops stationed in South Korea in various bases across the country, meant to act as a deterrent to the north, mainly. And Camp Coiner is part of Yongsan Base, and that's where the U.S. serviceman Donald is stationed. And that's Seoul itself is only 35 miles from the DMZ border with North Korea. So that's why there's such a sizable U.S. presence in the city. So that's some of the back. That's a really short version of some of the background of why there's this resentment against Americans. I mean, there's a lot of embracing of American culture in South Korea. That's, part of it's a big part of the pop culture. And vice versa, K-pop is growing in influence over here.
Yeah.
I know I've watched many a K-drama on Netflix. They're becoming more and more widely available. So I mean, there's some resentment, there's some embracing. It's mixed feelings, and especially because they don't want to piss off China, which is their biggest trading partner.
Mm-hmm.
We're their second biggest trading partner.
Mhm.
So, That's the background.
Yeah, there's definitely some. Well, there's one particular person who's written multiple posts who's basically trying to paint this movie as a propaganda film and everything. And I mean, isn't everything sort of propaganda in a way? It's all in trying to tell you a story. It's going to pull on people's experiences, and even if they're fictionalized, they relate to something. And
Right. But it helps explain the uncle's background, Namil's background. He was probably a student protester and demonstrator.
Yeah. But I didn't feel like this was in any way like, I guess the two main sort of villainous people that we see in this turn out to actually be Americans. One of them was the first doctor who's telling him to pour the formaldehyde down, and the other one is the doctor who's willing to do the lobotomy, even though he doesn't actually believe that there's a virus. But it's not like...
I'm not sure it's a lobotomy. It is brain surgery of some kind.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to tell, and he seems to recover from it pretty well. But there are other people, there are Korean people in that are also complicit. There's the friend who turns the uncle in to everybody else who are all trying to capture him for the reward. There's the doctor who's working with the doctor who's going to perform the surgery, who he's being told this stuff, and he shows no resistance about it. Even the person whose boss is telling him at the beginning to pour the formaldehyde down the drain is like, well, I don't think we should do this. Well, do it, or, you know, your job's on line. Okay, then I'll just do it. It doesn't matter that this is the drinking water for all of these people in the area. I don't feel like this was anti-American as much as it definitely could have been. It brings some of the things about that, but they're all things that are quoted from stuff that actually happened.
Right. And there's some mitigation of it with the American serviceman who tries to help fight the monster.
Exactly. And dies because, well, frankly, because his own doctors decide to push him through surgeries and stuff that he probably didn't need, instead of trying to save his life after the injuries.
Yep. So,
but a lot of what's holding the family back from rescuing the daughter is their own government. It's their own police force. It has nothing to do with Americans at all. So,
right. It has to do with mismanagement and corruption, and
which I think we can all relate to.
It's entirely possible, and I mean, there's this really nice humorous touch when they've got all the people who were in the first monster attack at the beach rounded up at a school, and this man in a yellow biohazard suit from the government, disease control, just trying to make a grand entrance and is swaggering in it and just slips and falls right on his ass.
Yeah.
And he's trying to dodge having to explain things himself by turning on the news, but the news isn't on at that time of day. So, it's definitely poking fun at the South Korean government as well. So there's a political symbolism in here. There's other messages that you might miss. I certainly would have missed the the sort of student revolutionary symbolism if I hadn't gone and looked it up. So
yeah. And the other thing to keep in mind is that even with all of that, this film was hugely successful.
Oh yeah, it was the number one movie in South Korea for a 6 or 7 years.
Yeah, made the most out of any of the films that they'd made at that point in time for a good long time, and has gotten very good scores in other places. Metacritic has rated very high, 85 out of 100. It did incredibly well for such a strange, quirky little horror film about as Matt would say, a vagina-faced fish.
It's really hard to look at it and not think that. So
I don't know. I was kind of able to think of it as not vagina-faced.
I mean,
it's sort of a cross between like a lungfish and an eel a little bit, and it's got these sort of surplus limbs that flap around when it runs around.
When you look at it head on and its mouth is open.
I don't know. I mean, I don't want to say anything about.
No, I don't know who you've been with, Matt.
Like, that's pretty much trying to avoid.
Terrifying. They are terrifying to look at,
especially when they sprout little gnarly, half-effective back legs and come crawling at you.
It's never happened to you. It happens to me all the time.
You are in Wisconsin.
Wow.
No, I mean, and the thing is, the design of the creature, because of the fact that it has kind of ineffectual legs, it feels realistic. It feels like, I mean, they could have gone super big. They could have done all these things to make it feel like more of a giant monster movie, and they didn't. They did something that felt kind of like, yeah, the mutations and stuff that are happening because of the poison that we put into the water stream here, and they give a timeline of, it wasn't just like it was overnight or anything. It makes it feel a little bit more believable. It feels like this is possible, and this creature could, I mean, barring the ridiculous, it seems like yeah, that's probably what something like that would wind up being like or looking like. It slithers more than it runs, because its legs aren't meant for walking on Earth. It's meant for being in water or underground.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But when it barrels at you, it takes you right out, no matter how.
Yeah.
Holding that
I mean,
bone
this
in.
is one of the reasons I wanted to watch this movie. Number one, because I think it's tremendously well made, and I love it, and it's funny and it's active. But the biggest thing that I thought would hook you, Matt, in particular, because I know you're not big on subtitles, is that the monster sequence starts only about 13 minutes into the movie. And you see it in broad daylight, and the attack goes on for 7 full minutes. And it's a crazy attack, and there's all these awesome moments in it.
It's the exact opposite of Cloverfield.
Right.
Which I hated that about that movie.
You know, there are all these great little moments. There's a woman cleaning her nails, and as she, you know, with everybody running past her, and she's got her headphones on so she doesn't notice. And like, just as she turns her head to look, the monster grabs her by the face and runs off with her. And the monster chases people into a trailer that's locked at the other end.
That was intense.
Yeah. And so, you know, the servicemen and Gangdu use a sign to attack the monster. And it's, you know, like a regular sign on one end and a big, you know, concrete counterweight on the other end. And the sign, which I assume means no playing music, looks like it could be interpreted as no playing the flugelhorn. You know, because it's just this horn with the circle and the slash through it. So,
and that's Gangdu's chosen weapon at the end of the movie when they actually defeat the monster. It was right, but he thought ahead. Like the first time, it was all about desperation, and he kept kind of chickening out from it and only doing halfway effective attacks because he wasn't sure what to do. By the time at the end, he builds up enough, and he's got so much rage that he focuses and he utilizes it correctly. That's what each of the characters. It's a growth of the characters in the film. There are characters that we lose along the way, but the characters that are still there, we see them grow from where they started to where they need to be at the end.
Oh yeah, it comes full circle with each of them. You know,
it's a
each of the children of Hibong makes a reversal of their previous mistakes. You know, Gangdu, who accidentally lets go of his own daughter's hand and grabs a different girl at the beginning when they're running from the monster. In this case, he keeps a hold of his daughter's hand and pulls her out of the mouth of the monster. Granted, it's too late, but you know, he does what would have rescued her if they'd been able to get her earlier. Namil, the uncle who was a drunk, uses alcohol as a weapon against the monster.
And fights in a way that he would in protests.
Right. And Namju doesn't hesitate with her shot when she's got that fiery wad on the end of her arrow, and she just takes it and sets that thing alight. And then Gangdu finds another sign to finish the monster off with. And it turns out that sign says "Protect Environment" on it. So, but yeah, it all comes around full circle. What did you think of the way the monster moves under the bridge?
What do you mean?
Like the locomotion, the head over tail, over head over tail.
That's what I thought. It was really unique. You know, it's not something you've ever really seen before, which I thought was really cool. I liked the way that every time
it's like an upside down slinky.
Yeah, every time you see it like hook under the bridge and then flop into the water, like they show the entire thing. It's not like you just kind of catch a glimpse of it. They show the entire action.
Right.
And I did
Right.
really like that because, and like Courtney said, I don't like in Cloverfield where it's like you catch a little glimpse. Like,
Right.
I want to see this.
You see
Like,
Yeah,
half
it
a
wasn't
leg.
hiding. It wasn't hiding what the movie was about. It's like we're not we're not trying to subvert the monster movie. It's like this is a monster movie, and you're going to see the monster. You're going to see the effects of the monster, and you're going to see people fighting the monster. And I think that's we try to outthink our filmmaking sometime in Hollywood today. It's like, oh yeah, I'm going to do this, but I'm gonna distract you over here from what this is actually happening, and it's like there was a time for that, but I think that we've moved past it, and sometimes it's just cooler to see the fucking monster.
mm-hmm.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. And then, it's funny. Apparently I thought that was incredibly cool how the monster moves under the bridge. And it turns out that the director, Bong Joon-ho, realized that because of the architecture of the underside of the bridge, that the monster would basically have to move like that in order to navigate the strut work underneath. So one led to the other rather than just saying, okay, make this thing work with where it's going.
Mm-hmm.
So
That's fucking cool.
yeah, I thought so, definitely. Oh gosh, let's see what else is in my notes. So, I mean, there are a lot of moments that stand out in this movie to me, but there's some really brilliant bits. Like when Hyunseo manages to call her dad with the last of her battery and let him know that she's alive and she's down in the sewer. Gandu is terrible at explaining it, and so he pantomimes it, and he holds up the phone, and he's like, "This is Hyunseo. I'm the monster," and he puts the phone in his mouth and then gently drops it into a wastebasket and holds up the wastebasket. He's like, "This is the sewer," and they don't get it because if you don't know what it's connected to, he sounds like a complete lunatic.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, okay, so your phone is Hyunseo and you're the monster and that's the sewer. Okay, see ya. We'll talk to you in several hours once the Valium is kicked in, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, it was really they were just predetermined to not listen to him,
Yes.
and it didn't matter to them if there were people that were survived out there. It was we're keeping everything clear of this, and I think some of that probably could have been explored as to why it's so important to keep people away from it. Is it because they're going to discover why this happened in the first place? That they just allowed people to pollute the area. There's so many different things as to like the reasoning of the government isn't really explored, but it does make a certain degree of sense. And it fits perfectly in a conspiracy theorist point of view, which is everybody in this feels like the government is working against them.
Right.
That's why they all try to rise up against them at the end with the Agent Yellow.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Yeah. And the family has to make like the screwball comedy escape from the hospital, essentially.
Yeah, they go and they run to the van, and someone actually posted this on, I don't know if it was about this part in particular, but when they go and they jump the van, I was thinking of Little Miss Sunshine.
I haven't seen it.
Oh man, I mean, it's basically it's this whole family with this little girl, and they're driving around the country in this van, going to sort of like talent beauty pageant things for the girl. But it's like if the girl had been with him in this, that's exactly what it would have been. It was just so evocative of that moment. Like if this turns into they're driving in the van and they go and they find her and everything, and they're trying to go around and keep away from the monster, that would have been terrific. But it was like, and the grandfather like gave all of his savings, all of his money essentially to get them what they needed to rescue the little girl, but they had no plan.
And the guns and the sewer maps and the getaway vehicle.
And then they had to con their way in through the place, and he gave the money that was saved up in the bucket for the cell phone that the father was saving up for. He gave that last bit away to the guy so
to bribe that last guard. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you really felt for them because even with all the silliness and everything, the 100% authenticity of we're trying to rescue her. This is our little girl, and we're doing everything we can, putting ourselves in danger, putting our livelihood and everything else on the line to find her and protect her. You know, it doesn't matter if people are coming after us. It doesn't matter if we're probably going to get killed. This is the most important thing to us. And that's a really heartfelt message in the middle of, you know, what is a somewhat silly monster movie.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the things I love about this movie is you really actually come to care about this family and what they're going through and how much, you know, as much as it's a pack of screw ups, basically, how much they love this kid and that they do anything for her and that they're willing to go through all this. And I mean, there's this incredibly sweet, kind of surreal moment. You know, they've been looking through the sewers all day. They're going through like one at a time, each of the sewer stations to try to find her. And they finally go back to the trailer for dinner and to rest. And Hyun-seo shows up in the background, and it, you know, I think it's something that they're all imagining or sort of wishing were true.
And what she's imagining too is she's trapped and she's got no food and she's thinking about like where
maybe I always thought of it as from their point of view, though, that they're imagining she's with them and each of them feeds her something.
Yeah.
And it's just this strangely touching thing because it's just such a fundamental thing to feed someone, not necessarily just, you know, feed them by hand, but to provide food for someone, to provide this fundamental thing. And it's a way that a lot of families show love is by cooking for each other, you know, family meals together.
Also, it's our first moment of seeing the family united when they're not arguing or fighting something. It's the first moment we see as the whole family in a normal moment,
right,
with that meal and what it could be like, and maybe not even what it had been like up until that point, because they had all been they argue with each other. You know, some of them are seen as disappointments, or all kind of seen as disappointments to each other in one way or another. And this is a moment of like, we're all just united together on this thing. And that was, you're right. It's a very precious moment.
And it's the last time you see them all together.
Yeah.
So, but you know, that was something that I really liked about it.
And it sort of comes together a little bit at the end, because that's the last scene that we see in the movie is with the rescued little boy that Young-do has basically taken himself, and he's taken over the shop. Even though there's nobody there, it's the middle of winter and there's snow everywhere, but he's still sitting there running the shop. And then he wakes them up so they can eat together. And they're trying to decide what to watch. And in the background is the news, and they're talking about what happened and all the different things. And it's like, here's our information that we can kind of download and find out what else went on or how things tied up and everything. And they're just like, let's turn the TV off so we can enjoy the meal more.
Right.
Because that's the important thing.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, it's a callback too of when Hyun-seo and Seju, the little boy, are down in the sewer, and she's making the rope out of clothes. And she tells him that she, you know, that her family owns a food stand. He immediately says, I want to live there.
Yeah.
You know? And he ends up living there, you know. So there's a lot of back and forth in there. So let me see what else. Thank you for bearing with me. I've got a lot of notes.
That's fine.
So, there's that, the rope that she makes ends up too short. So they have to hide. And there's this wonderful, horrific moment when the creature comes back and just horks up all the bones of the previous victims.
Yeah.
And it's like
oh yeah, I forgot about that part.
Yeah, like an owl, you know, regurgitating pellets with the mouse bones in it. And so it makes room so that it can then eat all the other victims that it had been saving in the bottom of the pit.
I go right to the bat-looking guys in Beastmaster that like pull up the skin and wrap them around. Yeah, that. And that was kind of thing too, because she had been dropped down there, and there were all these other people that were dropped down there, but she was the only one who had survived from what we'd seen for a while
Right.
until Siju shows up. But so it's basically it's like gathering them and then going to feed on them later. So it's nesting, which is very natural, makes sense.
But creepy.
Oh well, absolutely, because it's nesting, eating us. It's always a real wake up call when you're suddenly lower on the food chain than where you've been.
Yeah, that's true. When there's skulls bouncing around on the floor, that it's and it's really an insane number of bones. I don't think they could actually fit that much inside the creature. It seems like the volume is too high.
I don't know. After Thanksgiving, man, I feel like
That's true.
I've expanded.
But there's this there's a great moment like after she makes the rope and she's preparing to make her final attempt to escape. She tells CJ, I'll bring doctors, 911, the police, the military, I'll bring them all. And I'm like, boy, that sounds really familiar. And there's a part in Cabin in the Woods where Chris Hemsworth's character is about to make his final jump on the bike to try to get help. And he says, I'm coming back with cops and choppers and large fucking guns, and those things are going to pay. And just like that, it's just as futile as hers. Like, she makes this fantastic jump, bouncing off the back of the creature so she can reach the rope, and it catches her with its tail and puts her down incredibly gently. And there's something so it's almost more frightening that it doesn't terrifying. Just like grab her and slam her against the wall, that it picks her up and just with utmost gentleness sets her back down on the floor.
It's one of those moments where we realize that the creature is intelligent. It's not just a force of nature. It actually can think about things. It had the same kind of look of my cat when I'm sitting there and my cat's half asleep, but it's got its eyes open, still looking at me. And it's wagging its tail just a little bit like, I'm aware of your presence, and if I have to, I will take you out. Wow. That's essentially what this is. This thing, it lured her into feeling safe. She came out of the hole that it couldn't get her out of.
Right.
To try to escape, and she knew that she had to run up onto it to make it, and she makes the jump, and she feels like this victorious moment, and then just the slow realization of she's been grabbed and it's putting her down, and it's like, yeah, I'm setting you down now, and I'm going to give you one more chance to think that you can get out okay, with the running back towards the hole, and then as soon as she made her go for it, it was like honor. And that was it. That was her last moment. That was probably the most terrifying moment of the film.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, so that's most of what I have for notes. I mean, the only other things that I really wanted to talk about were the effects and the performance, particularly of the actor who plays Kangdu is named Song Kang-ho. And he is a huge star in Korea. So I've tried to think of a Western equivalent, and there really isn't one. The closest I could think of is maybe Jeff Bridges kind of thing in terms of his facility for doing comedy or drama. And he used to be seen as really handsome, and now he's aging into more of a character sort of face. And he's just, I find him to be a remarkable actor. He's in a lot of Bong Joon-ho's movies. He was in Park Chan-wook's movie Sympathy for Mr. Vengeance, which is part of the trilogy that includes Old Boy. He was in Snowpiercer a couple of years ago.
I think 3 of them were in Snowpiercer.
And so was the girl. Yeah, Koa Sung plays the girl, Hyun Seo. and she played his daughter in Snowpiercer as well. And I just think he can do so much with just like the tiniest tilt of his head. I think he really conveys a lot.
Well, it's kind of like Jackie Chan. When Jackie Chan started to get popular in America, we didn't realize like he was the giant star.
Oh yeah,
where he was from, and did not just action movies, like all the stuff that we knew him from action movies and stuff, but him and a lot of the other ones who came over here being action stars were doing romantic films. They were doing comedies. They were doing all these different kinds of things.
Right, melodramas.
Yeah, it was like unheard of. It was like the romantic comedy starring Arnold Schwarzenegger, which Matt would lap up like a saucer of milk in the corner, but is not something that would ever really work here.
What, you didn't like Junior?
No, but he liked Junior.
Take that back.
Oh, what did you think of the creature effect? So that was done by like a combination of 5 different effects houses. But the creature itself was designed in What a Workshop by a Korean designer. Jung Hae-chul was the designed like created a maquette at What a Workshop that they used as a template.
I mean,
yeah, I mean, for being a 2006 film, I think it holds up really well.
Matt?
Not even that. I mean, there weren't a lot of times where it was like blatant CG, which isn't saying a whole lot for a giant mutant fish. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, obviously, I'm not dumb. I knew it was fake, but it didn't like look shitty the entire time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
no, I thought it was really well integrated with the background.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I thought they did a really good job with it. For what?
Yeah,
and
I mean, some of
doesn't
the
take place in
super
front of a green
close-ups,
screen.
right? Some of the super close-ups were puppet.
Yeah.
Like that close-up of the eyeball when she's trying to figure out if it's sleeping or not. That's something they built.
But that adds to the feeling of realism about it.
Right, which is really nice because that shows you that they didn't just bank on, we'll just computer generate it, you know, every time that they interacted with the monster.
Right. Yeah.
And using areas and stuff that were legitimate places, like utilizing the sewers, utilizing that beach, it felt more real. It felt more grounded than like all of the Star Wars prequels, where it's just like, here's fake person in front of fake background on green screen and a couple of people talking to heads on sticks.
Yeah. So I was just really happy with it. You know, they really go for the detail, like it pushing over the trailer. Really looks like it's utilizing its strength. You can see its feet digging into the ground. You know, I just think they carry that off so well. The only thing that I think doesn't hold up and doesn't look good is when it gets set on fire.
Right. Yeah,
and you can really tell that that's sort of an overlay.
That's where I felt like the time, the 10 years later of effects, maybe we would have done better with that portion of it. But just like what you had said earlier, the amount of thought process into making it move the way that it did and making the creature what it was because of like, well, we wanted to do this. We wanted to be here. What kind of creature would do that and how would it move and what does it need? What kind of mandibles and stuff would it have? That, I think, that adds to it. It's not like we just want to make something that looks cool or we want to make something look scary. It's like, why would it look like this? Why would it be this? You know,
right.
Let's create the creature.
Why would it be the size that it is? You know,
yeah.
It's big, but it's not physically impossible big. Like would not be able to move properly sort of big. It's, you know, it's moderate dinosaur size. So we know creatures like that size moved around and existed. So it's thinkable that could happen.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Was there anything else that bothered anybody or puzzled you or that you liked?
Nothing that bothered me. Like, and like when we were talking a couple days ago or whatever, and I was like, you did really good by bringing Triangle. And so I had really high hopes for this movie. And I didn't dislike this movie. I actually had no idea what I was in for.
No, you thought it was a teen sci-fi drama.
Yeah, so I accidentally I was all prepared to watch.
I tried to warn you it was the Korean
Oh no,
one.
and that's what stopped me is that I went back and let's see if I can find that.
It was not based off the Stephanie Meyer novel.
Yeah. So I was like, oh, I'm the host, and there's a bunch of chicks, and then I actually went and looked at the Wikipedia page for it, and I was like, this is not the right one. So I never watched the Stephanie Meyer movie.
Okay,
I actually only watched this one, but it was there was a period where I was all set up to watch this one, and then went back, found the real one.
Yeah, all the goodwill of Triangle would have been gone if you didn't watch it.
Yeah, I'd be like, what the fuck is this? And I did really like this movie. It was a little different than the normal stuff that we watch too. So
right, yeah, it's not a straight horror movie, certainly.
No, not at all. But it was good. I mean, it was done it was done very well for not being a straight horror movie.
Yeah, Corey, what did you think?
Well, we'll rank it. If you
okay.
Oh, yeah, there's that. There's that. I guess if your list is done, then like Corey said, we can go ahead and rank it.
Yeah.
All right. As always, we'll rank it on our little scale that we should probably revamp because I'm getting bored with it. But we're gonna do it in 3 portions on a 0 to 5 scale, starting out with rewatchability. Nicole is our guest. You get to go first.
Oh, well, this is my 3rd time seeing it, so I give it a 5. There's so many, little moments that I like in it, and I like the way it hangs together, and I think it's really well done. So
yeah. Corey, how about you?
I'm gonna give it a 4. My wife was watching it with me at first, and then she went to bed, and it was around that time that it started to get I'm starting to understand what this is now. So I'd like to watch it again with her. Which happened the last time when you were on. We watched Triangle, and then I was telling my wife about it afterwards, and we immediately went and rented it on Amazon so she could watch it.
Oh, okay.
Nice. I'm gonna go with a 3. I mean, I did really enjoy it. I will likely go back and watch it. But the subtitles kind of a ding for me because it can't just kind of be like something that you casually watch. Like you really have to be invested in it, and that's not something that I do with my life ever.
Although I'm like that too a lot. I want to be distracted when I'm watching TV or movies most of the time because my brain just doesn't want to sit still.
Yeah.
But I didn't feel like I had to work too hard to get in what was going on or to even understand the dialogue as it was happening. I think there's only one point in time where I stopped and I went, oh, wait, what was just said? And I looked back for it. But for the most part, I think it was pretty well done on that regard. And Matt, would you be interested in seeing other movies from the person who made this?
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of passed the test by watching one and liking it. Had you asked me that question before, there's no way I would have watched it. So,
Snowpiercer's in English for the most part.
See, I've never even heard of that.
Beatmaster's been trying to get me to watch Snowpiercer for a year, and I keep not doing it. But it's got Chris Evans and a lot of other good people in it, and they're supposedly making a TV series based off of it right now.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah,
okay,
right.
yeah, and the directors, there's a new movie called Okja that's coming out next year that I think is going to be English language also because it stars Tilda Swinton and a couple of other American British actors. So
I assume Tilda Swinton does not speak English natively. I think she speaks some sort of alien tongue.
Well, yes, but her second most used language,
or I think angel language.
Corey gets a little weird,
but I really can't recommend Snowpiercer highly enough. Matt, I really think you'd like it. I really think you would. There's lots of blood and killing and stuff in it.
Oh, see, with a name like Snowpiercer, I never ever would have.
No, that's just the name of the train they're on. So,
although piercing sounds like possibly whatever. Your description just gave Matt a 6. So story score 0 to 5.
Nicole, you have to start.
What did you think of the story?
Always.
Okay. I think if before I knew the political background and everything for it, I would have given it a 4 because there were I was like, why is he spending so much time talking to like this old friend of his that he used to be a student with, and what's going on? There's clearly some symbolism going on here that I'm not getting with some of these overhead shots and, uses of big bright colors on the floor for some reason or another. So now that I know, I would give it like a 4.5, 5.
You have to decide. You have to pick one.
Oh, I have to
I
pick.
put a number down, and I need to know what number specifically you put down.
4.5.
Okay. Just don't want you coming back. Be like, well, I really wanted to give it a 5. Corey, how about you?
I'm going to go 4. I think that it did a great job of giving us a beginning, middle, and end of the essential story, and then giving us a lot of stuff around that to kind of enhance things with the sort of prologue at the beginning and some of the different stuff and characters that happen throughout it. I would have liked to have seen some of those things, especially the reasoning behind the government, maybe beefed up a little bit. It wasn't essential to it. It's just one of those things that even I go through this sometimes where we just want that little bit of extra spelled out for us. But overall, it was really solid.
Fair enough. I also give it a 4. I mean, it was something new, mostly based on the fact that they gave like a reason for the fact that there's this giant vagina fish, and it's the formaldehyde, which I thought was really kind of a nice touch. I'll bring us to the last category, which is
Touching the vagina fish.
Touching the vagina fish. Scariness, 0 to 5. Nicole.
Like a 2, I guess. I don't find it all that scary. I find it really cool to watch, but I enjoy the monster attacks too much to think of them as frightening for the most part, except for that moment where it grabs the girl. That was the only part I really found scary. But the rest of the time I was just like, oh my, especially the opening monster attack where I'm just like, that is so cool, and the shot of people running at you and you can see the monster out of focus in the background coming straight at them and going like, yeah, get him.
Fucking get him.
Kind of thing. So yeah, 2.
Yeah. Corey, how about you?
Yeah, I'm even gonna go 3 because the scene in the sewer was so dark and starkly terrifying in that moment, and I think that was something that they saved. They didn't try to do straight horror throughout most of this film. I don't think that's what this movie was about. But when they decided to scare you, or when they tried to show you the actual danger that this girl was in, because you felt like most of the time that it was like, oh, maybe she's just been captured by a thing and it's like a giant pet and it just wants to take care of her or something. When it goes from like, I'm going to be okay to, oh shit, not going to be okay. Not going to be okay at all. That stood out.
Yeah. I also, I'm going with a 2 because it was kind of scary, but not really scary, but kind of scary. But not like new scary, if that makes any sense to anyone besides me. I just kind of live inside my own head.
A lot of room in there.
Thanks, guys. The deafening silence really made me self-conscious about my body. This is the part where I stop eating for a month.
And this is the part where you do an outro.
You fucking do the outro. I don't want to do the outro tonight.
You can contact us by leaving us a voicemail at 805-328-3966. I miss doing this. Emailing us at pot@gncast.com or leave us a message on the website, gncast.com. We want to hear from you. We'd like to know what your favorite part of the show is. We'd like to hear what kind of suggestions you have for films for us, although we've been getting a lot of great ones from our guests. We still have a list that we've got potentially for when it's just me and Matt, and we'd like to know what kind of horror movies scare you. What can we bring to the Podcast of Terror that you recommend? You can also follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Podcast of Terror, and subscribe to us via iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, or any of your favorite podcatchers. We're pretty much on all of them. And leave us feedback, whichever one you like, or all of them. And then you can find our subscription options and links at gncast.com/subscribe. And you can also join our Facebook page under Galactic Network.
Keep going. You're not done.
All right. Nicole, people want to find you. People should want to find you because you've brought us 2 excellent movie choices so far. And I think they'd like to hear you talk about other movies. So where can they do that?
Well, they can find me on Geek Cinema Society every week, which you can get through your favorite podcatcher, or you can download or stream from the Blazing Caribou Studios page, which is just I think it's just blazingcariboustudios.com, or you can find me on the Geek Cinema Society Facebook page, which is facebook.com/Geek Cinema Society.
Do you have what is your next movie that you guys have coming up? What is your release day?
We usually release on Sunday or Mondays. The next one being released, let's see, we just released Soylent Green. So
It's people, you know.
Spoiler.
Spoiler. Oh gosh, give me a minute, vamp or something.
I
Nope.
ate too much
Nope.
turkey gravy over the week. I've released Soylent Green all over the place. And remember, folks, you can also go back and listen to past episodes from their feeds that you might find Matt or myself on.
That's true.
Okay, yes. This week's release will be Predator.
Ah, damn, I love that movie so much.
Which is why you didn't get to review it, because they bring on somebody who's never seen it before.
You know.
Yes.
That is hard. That is hard to look at that list of all these great movies and realize that you're out of the running for getting to talk about that one.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it must be nice to be the host, is what I'm saying.
Yeah. Although a lot of the stuff we've covered so far, we seem to be, just by dint of the scheduling of how we can get the guests booked, we've been front end loading with movies that I haven't seen. But, I went in and looked, and it's only about 10% of the list is stuff that I have not seen yet. So we're starting to really get into ones that I have seen before. And so I'll be rewatching and seeing what I think of them now versus what I used to. So that'll be fun.
Yeah, there's some that I haven't seen in years, and it'd be like, well, it's almost like I haven't seen it, but I want to cheat. But it's fun to listen and get that kind of feedback from somebody else to see what they think about it, especially seeing it now, sometimes so many years removed.
Yeah, well, you guys should check with Brett. We'd love to have you guys back, either singly or together.
Yeah,
We're
Matt will
not.
have to plan
We're not
ahead.
together, but we're together. We're not.
As
Like,
in each
Like
side, each
souls?
other.
yeah. We're not like. Yeah, we're dating.
Oh, okay.
I dated myself with all the Xanadu references earlier. You can find Matt on Twitter at Matt the Lifeguard. You can also listen to his new release for his band, Drown the Lifeguard, which I got to listen to on Google Play, but you can find it on iTunes and other places. And I believe the CD is going to be released or has been released. Correct?
I got a box right next to me.
You've got a box of CDs that you can get. So you can definitely check that out. Also, I do comics, or I promote comics for my friend Levi Krause at donetscomics.com. Been publishing Spells, which is a little comic about 3 witches who do very devious things, and also publishing the classic Levi's World books that he did in the 90s. So check those out.
Yay. I don't know how to get into ending this because normally
you would have done all of that.
Yeah.
Well, now you thank our guest.
Oh yeah, thanks, Nicole. It was
Thank
fun.
you guys. I had a great time.
Yeah, we'll get you back here in our usual 2-ish month gestation period.
Sounds great. I already know which one I want to do.
Oh boy.
God damn it. I was going to say no pressure or anything because you've already brought us 2 great films that we never would have discovered on our own, but it sounds like you're just going to stay consistent on that. That's
I'm trying to keep a high bar.
very intimidating.
Does she go 3 for 3 or does she finally shit the bed? That is when we find out.
I mean, we have to clear up all the shit that Dave Nelson drops there every time he guests on.
Jesus. Lord Jesus, there was a fire. Well, Nicole, once again, thanks for coming. And thanks again for listening to another podcast here. We'll talk to you guys next time. All right.
Thank you, Growly Bear.
Wait, what?
He said, good show, guys.
Oh, thanks, buddy.
Yeah, so
Cool.
Predator this week, and next week Labyrinth,
Oof.
Oh, you're
I got
Martian,
real drunk and watched that in Kansas not that long ago.
Reanimator,
Oh,
Willow.
I'm gonna kill YouTube. So Growly Bear, thanks for hanging out, buddy. We will hopefully see you next week.